All right, just pulling up to my next service call. Believe it or not, the service call is the furnace is not working. I'm telling my office, yo, it's 70 degrees outside. And then I looked at the service history and I realized that the furnace also controls the air conditioning. So if the furnace isn't working, his air conditioner isn't working, and it's going to be a hot weekend. So let's see what's going on. Stay tuned. Make sure you thumbs up the video. Timer flash 7 times. BTU system. You ain't testing, you're guessing. All right, got ourselves a Lennox Merit Series. It's not doing anything. Nothing, absolutely nothing. When did this problem start?
3 weeks ago.
Just died out of the blue?
Yeah.
You didn't try changing the thermostat or anything, did you?
I did nothing.
Okay.
Basically, the thermostat, what I did was I looked online and I jumped the cables.
Which ones?
So I did each one, I think there's a white one or the black one to each color.
You know what letters you were jumping out?
No.
Because if you jumped out one sequence of them, you'll blow the fuse inside the furnace, which is R and C. There are terminals inside each thermostat. You have RH, RC. R means power. H is heating, so RH is power heating. RC is power cooling, because C is cooling. G is fan. Y is cooling. W is heat. So it's basically like a switch. And because you have a furnace that does everything, you're not going to use RC and RH on your thermostat. There'll be a little jumper wire there. And the red wire, which is normally R, will go to RH or RC, which are jumped out. So that's power coming in, like a light switch. And let's say you want the heat on, right? The power is going to jump from that R to W, closing the circuit, which then will turn the system on, like a light switch. Right. And if you want cooling, it also is going to activate G, which is fan.
So all 3 of them I took off.
Yeah.
And there was one cable on the bottom.
Yeah.
That was it. So all of these were separate.
So you had 3 wires.
Yeah. And then one on the bottom.
Yeah. Was it red, green, and no? You had 4 wires.
Right.
Right.
That's 4. 4,
because you had cooling. You have yellow wire, green wire, red wire, and a white wire.
Yeah, white. I jumped to each one of them.
Okay, let's see.
I don't even know if they're supposed. Is their light supposed to be blinking here or not? But
let's see. Let's see what's going on down here. So there's your C, which is a red wire, which is going to the condenser, because this is the Y. Right? This is Y, and this 2 wire is definitely going to our condenser. So there's no C wire at your thermostat. The next wire is this green wire. That's fan, which goes to the thermostat. The one after that is red, which is R, followed by W, which is white, and then yellow, which is cooling. Let's see if this fuse is blown. And sure enough, it's blown. Now the question is, why is the fuse blown? So let's put a new fuse in and see what happens.
It just died.
Okay, so here, You
with the thermostat.
So you just said that really hot Sunday, which was 2 weeks ago, it was like 90 degrees. Yeah. You turned the cooling on for the first time.
Probably for the summer.
Yeah. You turned it on for the first time. It sounded like it ran for a little bit, like maybe a few seconds or a few minutes.
I don't know, because I left from that area.
Okay.
But then once I came back, it was turned off.
It was dead and nothing was happening. So before I actually put the fuse in, we're going to check out the outdoor unit, because the problem may be there. There's a part called a contactor. A contactor is basically a high voltage switch that's controlled by low voltage. And when we explain it to you? Let's go outside. All right, an older Lennox. She's been beat up by the landscapers quite a bit, but she's seen better days, but coil is still intact. We're gonna check the contactor. We're also gonna look at this wire right here, which has been wrapped with electric tape many times. It's missing a little bit of insulation, which is not a big concern, but something you want to look out for. Let's open up this cover on this 2-ton Lennox R22 system. This right here is called the contactor. You have 2 lines of power, which equal 240 volts coming into it. And it's off, by the way, because if I push the nose, see, nothing's happening. And leaving this contactor is your connections to the other components, like the compressor, the fan, the capacitor, things like that. If the contactor is shorting out, it could backfeed power or line voltage power through 24 volt control wire, which is what this is, by the way. This carries 24 volts. When that switch is closed, when that R and that Y, the R and the Y close, it's sending 24 volts out here. So if if you were to touch the wires, like even like this, see how it's like almost touching this metal? Well, there's actually a piece of plastic there, but that, even something like that, if something's shorted, if the 24 volts shorted to this ground or this piece of steel, it's going to blow that fuse and kill everything. So we're going to test this coil right now. I'm testing for resistance across the coil. I got 16 ohms, 17 ohms. Jumping around a little bit, but I don't think it's the contactor. I don't think it is. I think there's something to do with this wiring that's here. All right. Let me get the blower and clean out this compartment, and I want to maybe splice this wiring again. Let's try that. All right, much better. All right, let's splice a new wire. All right, I cut all this out, spliced in there, and wrapped some electric tape around the wire nuts there, and used a couple Wagos in here, and I'm just gonna go replace the fuse inside, 3 amp fuse. Let's see what happens. I'm not gonna hook it up to the contactor yet. I just wanna get the fuse in there and see if I have any shorts. All right. There's my fuse. Door switch is open, so there's no power here right now. So let's turn this on, see what happens. Okay. So far, so good. Oh, rust on that heat exchanger there. Yep. Years ago, I think, right? Yeah. All right, so nothing out of the ordinary. Let's get the cover back on and head on outside. I'm going to carefully take my thermostat connections and re-secure them there. And when I connect this one, the contactor should pull in like that. See? Okay. Now we're going to plug in a disconnect. Yeah, missing the internal cover. Alright. So far, so good. So I'm just reviewing this piece of thermostat wire that was there. And let's take a close look. See, I have the wire exposed, and it looks a little, looks like it's cracking in there. See? See how it's cracking there? Yeah. And again, I'm looking for an explanation what would short out the system and blow the fuse. And again, because I see this, you don't need to replace the entire wire from here, point A to point B, the condenser to the furnace. But let's take care of what we see as obvious issues. And there's another one there. See, it's all exposed. So we'll secure that a little bit better, maybe with some zip ties. Maybe I'll put some insulation on the lines. I'm actually going to do that. We'll get some insulation. So I wrapped my suction side with some Armorflex, and I threw in the low voltage control wire inside. And while I was working on that one, we checked out this one, make sure she's also wrapped, so I threw in some Armor Flex on this one as well. And again, putting in the low voltage control wiring inside. We turn on the right hand, your left hand behind your back, not touching anything else while you're plugging in the disconnect. And I unplugged this one to test the contactor on this unit. And before I'm leaving, I asked him to turn on the thermostat because, again, I touched the system. I want to make sure that it's running before I leave. And she came on, already blowing out some hot air, discharging that hot air from the house. You know, air conditioning is extracting that heat from the house. The medium is the refrigerant, and it gets released or discharged outside by the condensing unit. So when you feel, you know, the outside of your units when they're nice and hot, you know a system's working. That's right off the bat, because that heat is the air being, that hot air being extracted from the house and being discharged outside. So if you feel one is hot and one is cool, there may be something wrong with the one that's cool. There you go. All right, that was a pretty easy service call. I spent just under an hour on site. We, in my opinion, addressed the concern, which was the blown fuse and reasons why the fuse blew out. How do we correct this, and how do we prevent it from happening again? So, and I also gave him a little bit of education before I left. I said, listen, in the event this blows again, here's an extra 3 amp fuse. And I'm just giving you one. I don't want you to start buying like a whole skid of them on Amazon. But if it happens again in the near future, or it happens again in the future, here's one fuse. And if your system's not doing anything, totally non-responsive, go down there and see if the fuse is blown. If the fuse is blown, you can make sure to turn the power off before you do anything, but turn the switch off on top, take the covers off, look at the fuse is blown, put this one in, and put the covers back on, turn the switch back on, and see what happens. And I told him, listen, I immediately went to the contactor because that is a common, it doesn't happen that often, but it's a cause that can cause the fuse to blow. However, when I saw the low voltage control wiring with the outer insulation cracked and the individual wire insulation also cracked as well, you have the chance, especially if waters and rain is getting onto it, you have the chance of it shorting out, which could blow the fuse. And as you know, I also insulated the other line set on the other condenser, so a little added value. Didn't earn myself a tip, but I gave him a plethora of information, which I hope he retained. And again, developing the relationship with the client is my number one goal, and doing a professional job. In case you guys want, I still have plenty of these, and I'm gonna tell you something, these may be a hot commodity coming up in the real immediate future. You never know. If you want a Mikey Pipes 2.0 sticker, summer 2.0 sticker, details in the description box down below. Thanks very much for watching. Let's head on to the next job, and make sure you thumbs up this video, and if you haven't done so already, please subscribe. Be well, God bless.